I'm a NASA space scientist, and I'd like to talk to you briefly about Comet Elenin. Now, this little comet is nothing special except that you probably know on the internet there's all kinds of wild stories saying that it's going to hurt us or it threatens us or you should be afraid of Comet Elenin. I think you'll realize that that is not true if I take a moment to tell you what a comet is. A comet is a member of the solar system, a very small member, only a mile or two across generally, that spends most of its time far from the sun in the deep freeze of outer space, but whose orbit occasionally brings it in close to the sun. When it gets close to the sun, the heat outgasses material, water vapor, carbon dioxide, dust, and produces a huge, very tenuous cloud, so that you can't even see the little nucleus inside. And this leads to all sorts of misunderstandings that somehow it's growing in size. Well, the gas cloud is, but not the comet. There are also strange stories about its orbit. People say it's changing its orbit, it's changing its speed, it's changing its direction. Well, it stays exactly on its orbit. But in following the orbit around the sun, under the gravitation of the sun, of course, it's constantly changing its speed and direction. It's doing just what it should do. Now, consider this little nucleus, only a mile or two across. We've not had a good look at the nucleus of Comet Elenin, but we have sent spacecraft to comets in the past. The biggest was Comet Halley, photographed here by the European Giotto spacecraft. That's about 10 miles across. One of the smallest is called Hartley, photographed by a NASA spacecraft a year ago. That's only a little over a mile across. These are interesting to astronomers, but they pose no danger to any of us. The most strange claim, and one that's gotten a lot of attention, is that somehow Comet Elenin was responsible for the big earthquake in Japan last March. There's no way a comet could cause an earthquake. In fact, there's no way any celestial object can trigger an earthquake. The Japan earthquake was slippage on a major fault, a boundary between plates that make up the Earth's crust, that releases a lot of energy, and this happens repeatedly. In fact, that fault is one of the most active faults on Earth, although this earthquake was exceptionally large. I can assure you the comet had nothing to do with it. Some people say, well, this isn't even a comet. It's something massive. A brown dwarf, perhaps, which would be a small star with 100 times the mass of Jupiter. Well, that's simply impossible. First, the very fact that it has this extended atmosphere and tail shows that it has low gravity. If it were a massive high-gravity object, the gas couldn't escape, and we wouldn't see any of that. If it were a massive object, it would really be screwing around with the orbits of the planets as it came through the inner solar system. But there's been no change in the orbit of Mars, no change in the orbit of the Earth, no influence at all. These are just manufactured fears. Comet Elenin is just the most recent in this phenomenon of people's fear of the cosmos. They're afraid of things that are happening. Of course, the big story is they're afraid of this fictional planet Nibiru that doesn't exist, that's supposed to do damage to us in December of 2012. There's a whole mythology here. And none of it is based on fact. It's all fantasy. It's all wild speculation. And it's a shame that people are afraid of it. There's no conspiracy here. There's no danger from Comet Elenin. There's no danger in 2012. But believe me, while there are plenty of real problems in the Earth, they don't come from the sky.